was asked to show this disclaimer for a few minutes before I jump into my slide. How many here think I've showed it long enough? Thank you so much. Hey, thank you for having me here today, and thank you for voting for my session. You know, I've come to this realization over the last few years that in the next 3 years, 80% of your jobs won't exist, or they'll exist differently. Now, the question is, are you going to be a manager of AI agents, or are you going to be replaced by them? Let's talk about Sarah. Sarah is a wonderful VCF admin that knows it all and is working efficiently and hard and managing all of the things that she's doing today. And I'm sure that this resonates to some of you out there that are living Sarah's life, where she's almost burnt out with all the different tools and things that she has to monitor. But if you fast forward in 3 years, Sarah will be running a team of AI agents to manage her day. And that's what her life will be like. Ground zero today for, Hi, I'm Lance Knight. I am the former CEO of Connectall, an automation company. Have been in this space for, 20 years. I've authored many of books, white papers on transformation, on automation, on pattern thinking. And today I serve as the Chief Value Stream Architect for the AOD part of Broadcom, which is Agile Operation Division. So I've been doing this automation thing for a little while. But you know, ground zero for Sarah today is this mess, right? Think about how many interruptions a day you go through, right? I mean, this is the statistics that came from Microsoft's trend report, and 275 interruptions a day. Whether that is a Slack or GChat or whatever solution you're using, emails, text messages. Yeah, how are you supposed to get anything done when every minute of every day this stuff happens to you? I personally turn them off and try to get something done. And then somebody says, where are you? You're not online. No, I'm working. I'm not available to you right now. And the big thing is, you know, if you look at these statistics, the biggest one there is 80% of workers today have nothing left. At the end of the day, you go through your day and like, I had all these meetings, I answered all these chats, but I didn't do anything. And you don't feel accomplished. And you have nothing left for all those other things that you feel that you would be accomplished in doing. A matter of fact, I was interrupted 4 times putting this slide together. So that's Sarah's ground zero. That's her problem today. Now, I have a term for these in the writing I've done. I call this noise. Noise, just noise. Noise that stops you from building, from putting an infrastructure together. Noise is, you know, when I started in IT, I did it to build stuff. But then I started answering all this noise. I really didn't have time to put things together and try to work in a way that made sense, that was, you know, that gave me some fulfillment at the end of the day. But wow, I got that working. Isn't that cool, right? I started to see I didn't have that anymore because of all this noise. I determined noise is anything and everything that stops you from doing something productive on a day. And every industry has this noise, right? Multiple cry wolves or multiple tickets and so on. Now, I took a look at some things, and this is some of the noise I found and I felt was in VCF that would take you through your day-to-day, right? Now, this is just kind of a little more standard, but there are these different noises, from alerts to service request redundancy. How many of you have been familiar with alert storms, right? Where one after the other after, right? And you know, for Sarah here today, who we're talking about her transformation to AI Agent Boss, you can see that Sarah on Tuesday got 247 alerts. Only 3 were a real problem. but yet she got all these alerts. And that kind of controls her day. Logs. I mean, how many logs are there? There's so many logs today that you need to go through just to find the problem. And by the time you take the 4.7 hours it takes, according to Gartner, to go through all those logs, that's how long it takes just to get to the logs to get to a root problem. And this is some of the things that teams are dealing with today just to get to what the issues are in your infrastructure. 2.1 million log entries per day. That's quite a bit. Then there's this. I can't tell you how many tools you probably have to log into just to figure out what the problem is. How many monitoring tools, right? Sarah's team here has 12 different tools, 12 trusts, and zero clarity against all these solutions. I call it an explosion of tools. All these solutions to help with different point problems that you have to look at each day in order to solve a problem or so on. I know teams I've had in the past would have to look at all the different logs just to figure out what was the root problem and why that software wasn't working. This one gets me too, that death by 1,000 handoffs. I'm waiting for the DB person to look at that. Or here's the issue, right? Email, ticket, answered the wrong team. All of those things happen that make it just so difficult to accomplish a task. And you have, processes that say you need to hand all this off to different people. That's another noise. And then there's configuration. Drift. Anybody experience configuration drift issues? I know most people would be shaking their head, absolutely, right? So how do you handle that, right? That's happening. And in the middle of the night, what are you getting? You're getting all these alerts because a patch didn't work because of configuration drift. The other day, a friend of mine who works for the state of New Jersey came to me and he said, hey, I got caught doing a patch in the middle of the night and now it's not working and it's down. And I have to get up in the middle of the night and take care of it and get that server back up for what company I'm working with. And it's because of configuration drift. But who but my friend would have knowledge of what the systems were and how they were set up, and he can only handle that. So that's one of Sarah's issues right there. And then there's throughput configuration issues as well, where you've set up on your systems to say, if it needs more memory, stop, slow down, send alerts. These are all different types of noise that can affect your ability to just work and configure and put things together. What happens if a server runs out of an allocation of memory in the middle of the night? Well, a lot of times you'll end up getting an alert. You'll have to get up and take care of that, maybe expand it, do all these different, these are some of the noises. I'm sure there's more than this that I'm articulating here today that are out there that need to be looked at, where you can make life a little bit easier for yourselves by understanding these different things. Service request redundancy. So once you get that storm going, you start getting all these requests and all these things happening, right? And it's always redundant, always the same thing. So through the day, all this is happening, and how can you handle all that with a small team or one person? I'm getting request tickets for new servers. I'm getting all these requests, right? If I'm developing software, somebody says, I need a server to do this, to test or to do those things. And then you have to go in and create all that. Now, you might have an automation set up within VCF operations, but you've got to go click the button, do the work, do all of that to make it all happen. And then, the requests that are pretty straightforward that you get from time to time. All this has a cost. Death by 8,000 cuts, right? I mean, different alerts over the weekend. This is driving Sarah to want to update her LinkedIn profile Maybe she's going to go back into food services because it's just a lot easier, right? But all of this has a cost. This noise has a cost in your ability to be effective in your organizations. So what do we do? I mean, what do we do about this? We're at a crossroads. Sarah is at a fork in the road. We're all kind of at this crossroad of all of this noise, which is going to, get more with more and more things that people want with servers, right? More and more environments are coming up. All this is happening. What can we do, right? Can we stay in firefighting mode that we just talked about, where I am just responding to issues all day long, not building or trying to be what I got into IT for a long time ago? I remember the first time I couldn't get a server working, and I worked, and what euphoria when I got it to work. When was the last time somebody felt that euphoria, right? Well, hi, man, I got that server to work, or that piece of code. So how do we do that, right? So if you stay in fire mode, you run the risk of becoming irrelevant in the next 2 to 3 years, because it's all going to be handled in a different way. So this concept called the frontier firm is part of that. The frontier firm is, how do I use intelligence to make that happen? How do I solve these problems with intelligence? How do I lead in AI? And the concept comes from the source, which comes from the Work Trend Index from Microsoft that I read a while back. And it talks about how organizations can use AI to transform operations, to transform the way that you're working, right? Sounds pretty cool, right? Sounds really cool. And this is one I think is really important for us all. It's not to replace humans. It's to augment them, enhance where they're going. This is what I mean when I say your jobs will change, right? And you need to be able to change with them. Automatic ticket handling, we got AI to do that already, right? Where they can automatically take a look at a ticket and decide what to do. So the future is this collaboration, and that's what frontier firms are doing according to this piece of research. So what's the next step? How does Sarah and her team start this journey? Because they did really well of laying out this whole future, but how do you start? How do you get going? How do you take that first step and do that first automation? Maybe it's not AI yet. Maybe it's just something simple to make your days easier, right? How do I take that first step? How does Sarah start that journey with her team to becoming an AI boss? Well, my point of view is this, that we use traditional Lean Six Sigma thinking, value stream management, to lay out that path. I can use systems thinking, lean principles to understand where points of integration, automation can be put together. Systems thinking, I've spent a lot of time, I've written a couple things on systems thinking. That's really just looking how a system work, right? Where emergence, that's where something comes into the system, goes through the system, all these feedback loops and things happen within that system, and out comes something, a result. So if you look at your different systems and the different feedback loops and how they work, include the human if you're looking in those systems. Because a lot of these systems actually have that feedback loop throughout it. So in systems thinking, you can use it to solve that problem. And then just apply some lean principles. So in lean, there's this whole concept called value-added, non-value-added work. And there's probably value-added, non-value-added work in IT systems as well. So if you take a systems thinking and you look at, okay, is that a value-added activity? It may be, but how can I automate it? How can I make it more efficient? How can I drive it forward and do something different to save that time and be more efficient? Maybe it's a non-value-added activity, what you're doing, but necessary. So to me, security is a non-value-added activity. However, it's extremely necessary that you have good security in your system. So how do I automate that? How do I use AI to solve that problem? How do I, improve that? How do I use these lean principles and take a look at that? Of course, I talk a lot about value stream management, So map the value stream of your pipeline, of how things are coming into the system, moving through your systems. And you can take a look at times and what's going on, and you can say, hey, this part seems to take a little bit longer Can I use AI to do that? Can I set up an automation to do that? And draw a system diagram. Systems diagrams are really fascinating when you think about how they're not just looking at flow in a particular way, because in systems, especially human systems, it's not linear in any way. There's all different things that are happening. And in your software development, and also in infrastructure, a lot of that isn't linear either. It's bouncing all over, and there's different feedback loops and different systems and different loops. And it gets really complicated, I think, in software and infrastructure when you talk about microservices and how all they work together. So use a system design to lay that out. And then you can say, here's areas where I can start to apply automation from infrastructure and even up into your tools of decision, up into your ITSM tools, up into costing solutions and so on from that infrastructure so you can be more efficient. All this is about pattern thinking and trying to find patterns that you can then use to automate with. Now, I've been doing this pattern stuff for all the time I've been doing automation. So there's all different types of patterns that you start to see happening within your infrastructure and things that you need to attend to and look at. And Sarah and her team have spent a lot of time looking at this and trying to figure out what are the patterns that I can make my life easier? How can I get a pattern to slow down some of that noise? This is a particular pattern that we were talking about for that, and this is the event pattern, event-driven pattern, where I'm taking things like events, alerts, logs, metrics, all of those things from inside of VCF and its components and bringing that up to the ITSM layer or up to the other layer where, alerts can get pushed to ServiceNow, to Jira, to whatever solution you want. You can actually automate those alerts and make sure they go to the right place. And there's a API callback. That's where I'm calling back information. All of these things are happening within VCF logs. I might mess up the branding. I apologize to whoever wouldn't like me to say that way. But anyway, the point is that this information, these patterns can get up into the areas where you're making decisions on a daily basis, where those incidences are, saving you having to log into those different systems and see all that, right? Different configurations I can get up in there. For example, the DevOps play, where I have all these different things that are here, where I have my pipeline, infrastructure as code kind of thing, where I'm saving all of that. All this information can be automatically put up in a place where you're looking at it every day and manage it right from there. I'm looking at right now an automation where it has a threshold issue, and can I click a button in ServiceNow and have it add more memory automatically? So if you get an alert that says there's a memory issue, can I do something in ServiceNow and have it automatically add more memory? And the answer is we can do that. Those types of automations do exist. And that, I'm talking about ServiceNow, but that could be Remedy, that could be whatever ITSM tool. And did I go backwards? I went the wrong way. And that's what I was talking about here, where you can take and look at ServiceNow, Remedy. All of this information can be synchronized between the two. Your costing information can be synchronized. Your CMCD information can be synchronized. Your different pieces of your infrastructure can be synchronized. You could send up alerts here. You can do all these different things when you start to bring together your ITSM and your infrastructure a little bit more closer to what's going on between those different solutions. So this is the value stream automation revolution. This is where we start to look at using automation tools like this in order to connect into VCF and your other infrastructure solutions, even collaborating with the automation solutions that are already there. So I could put a task into ServiceNow. It would know to fire off an automation and automatically do the things I needed to. And it's to start thinking this way with all of these different tools and solutions. And ConnectAll has the ability to do these different things. And this is kind of some of the quick wins you might be able to have by thinking about how to automate, how to really start to set these things up. Some relatively quick wins, operation alert collection. Then you can look at, automating ticket enhancement, things like that really make your day more effective, trying to take care of some of that noise and remove it from the infrastructure. And the ability to measure and do some different things like that and share success with leadership. These are just some quick wins you can look at as you try to automate that. The other piece of this is we're talking about this, it's about those 12 tools. How many tools a day do you log into, right? If you could automate some of this and do it all right from your ITSM tool or get the alerts up from there, some of those redundant things that you get that ties up your day. So the next step after you start thinking about that, kind of like a pathway to success, is now we're going to get into intelligent automation. This is coming really quickly to where you're going to start to put AI into this, where artificial intelligence is starting to be a big piece of how this information happens, how it flows. You're going to bring AI into, answering tickets automatically with a vertical MLM that's just going to know about you, your infrastructure, and your stuff, and it's all secure, and it's running in one of your clouds there from VCF, one of your server units. So you're going to start to see where in the future, this is all going to look very, very different. Things are going to transform very quickly, and automation solutions and intelligent automation solutions are going to start to take advantage of that type of thing, where you can start to put AI in there. And every solution today is now saying, yes, we have this AI, we have AI in here. But what they're not telling you is to say, how do I decide where to do it? How can I do one little project, right? How can I do one thing, start small, grow, and decide where I can apply that? And that's where I talk about using the principles of, okay, let's start here. I know that if I just send this alert to AI, it'll give me an answer and it'll enhance my ability to make a decision. It's not going to make the decision for me, but it might give me more data to make a better decision. For example, a vulnerability comes in from a vulnerability scanning tool. Let's say White Hat. That has to go somewhere. Well, that can go to AI and generative AI. It can do all the research for you, fill that extra information in the ticket to help you understand how really severe that is. And then based upon that, it can send it to your ticketing system. You can send it to Jira, it can send it to ServiceNow or any of those other solutions so that you're already got a leg up on some of that noise. And this is where intelligent automation is going to start to take a play within software development delivery, infrastructure, all of these different things. And you can start to imagine all these different types of use cases once you start to think about it. So we have to move from this state, from where we're being reactive, and now I have AI being proactive and actually seeing where I might have issues coming up. Rather than managing alerts and fixes and 2 a.m. calls, AI is predicting, presenting, and talking about reports and data by analyzing those logs all ahead of time. So that you start to really understand, how does my organization bridge the gap between collaborating with humans and being more predictive? And you start to become orchestrators. You start to be this environment where I am proactively part of the whole infrastructure. And I'm orchestrating different AIs in order to take care of the pieces of what I need to do. My day starts to fundamentally change, where I start to embrace AI and start to understand how can I use it to make decisions overnight, to optimize my value stream. It's kind of a portfolio of these AIs that are doing all these different things. And I believe that our future in infrastructure IT is going to be the creator of these environments. We're going to manage the environments. We're going to set up these automations and create this for the future. I think the statistics I once heard was that I think it was like 3/4 of IT person's time is spent on setting up integrations and automations. They spend a lot of their time doing that kind of work. This is the future. You're going to have all these different AI agents set up through automation. That automation can be those security agents where your scanning tools are going to the security agent, or even the security agent is looking at it himself. He finds vulnerability. He either automatically fixes it or puts a human in a loop saying, this is my predicted fix. Click this button to make it happen. And tries to give you as much information as you can have in order to make that decision. This is how some of the future is going to go. Monitoring agents, they're looking for observability. They're looking at the whole architecture together. Optimization agent that looks out and says, here, maybe we could do this more effectively like this. And you're going to have a set of agents that are actually working for you to do that. So here's Sarah's new day after she's running all these agents, after she set up all these automations, right? She went through this path of starting her journey by just basic automations. Then she's starting to look at how do I bring in AI instead of actually agentic agents in her system with different automation, intelligent automation solutions. Here's her new day. 8 a.m., I review what the agents did overnight. Kind of go through what and they have a very nice report set up for me that's relevant to me. Not just another graphical chart that it means nothing, right? You got a nice little report there. Then she trains her agent. Well, she gets into strategic planning with leadership. She's no longer putting out fires and surrounded by all that noise that doesn't let her have that feeling of, am I really producing something? Or am I just enforcing things? So she's having strategic meetings with leadership about it. She's training agents, vertical agents most likely, where they are with a vertical IT so that they can make sure that they're able to align to what the organization wants. She's making sure AI governance is happening in her organization as well. And at 5 a.m., she goes home and there's no phone calls in the middle of the night. Anybody had a phone call in the middle of the night this week? Not me, I'm not in IT like that anymore, but I used to get those all the time in the middle of the night. I go way back to be a Novell guy. That should age me quite a bit. So I used to get those calls in the middle of the night all the time. But now she's got a new life, a new journey, a new kind of way to look at it, all because she's taken this journey of being overstressed by all this noise, and she's turned herself into an AI agent boss. There are some pitfalls that I want to talk about on this journey that we need to think about. And those pitfalls are things like, don't transform the whole organization at once. Don't change everything. Pick one or two. Start slow. Move at a certain pace as you start to implement AI into your organization. Don't bite off some big, I'm going to do this whole thing, right, with it. As a matter of fact, 85% of all AI IT initiatives today never make it to production. I have another ebook I wrote on that whole process about how you were spending all this money on AI, but nobody's getting it to production, right? They're really not leveraging yet. It doesn't have to happen all overnight. This is going to come over time. Over the next 3 to 4 years, you'll start to see more and more AI be put into different organizations. More and more generative AI, right? AI is already writing most of the code that's out there today. Make sure you pay attention to security while you're doing that. And make sure that when it comes to educating your AI, you're getting the right data to them as well. Because they will get it from all different sources unless it's the right space. But be smart, prove value, and scale it up. That's some of the pitfalls to it. Honestly, this is a message from Sarah in the future, right? She's extremely happy. She's transformed. She's not frustrated anymore. And she's kind of transformed the way she thinks and works on a daily basis. Now, so I've been in IT for a long time, and I'll tell you, every year there's something new to latch on, but this particular time it's different, right? I've gone through I've gone through mainframe. I've gone through punch cards. I've programmed Commodore 64s. I've gone through it all. I've been here a while doing this stuff. And, you know, I've been through the wow of the internet, the bubble of that, the burst of that, and then the quiet transformation to Wi-Fi that happened as well. And then all these other things, the cloud. I don't know how many of you remember the first picture that showed up of PowerPoint that was a cloud, right? Now it's a cloud, right? So I remember marketing doing that, you know, way back then. So I remember all these things. But right now, this transformation to me is bigger than anything that we've seen happen. So you have a choice. I can think like a beginner and start to embrace and experiment and understand it, you know, do what I need to do to self-educate myself to maintain relevancy in this. And today I use AI for a lot of things. But the one thing that it can't do is it can't be you. It can't think about what to do. You have to tell it what to do right now. Soon, maybe not. So the question is, that I have is, will you manage AI agents or will you be replaced by them? That's the question. Anyway, thank you.